Hey everybody, welcome to more Political Excess. Since the Republicans have taken over the U.S. House, there's going to be a leadership change. Kevin McCarthy is expected to become Speaker of the House, but does he even have the votes for it? And for the Democrats, Nancy Pelosi has stepped down. The other high-ranking Democratic leadership has stepped down. Steny Hoyer, Jim Clyburn. So there'll be some new leadership on the Democratic side. Hakeem Jeffries is the purported frontrunner. And for the number 2 and 3 positions, names floating around, Catherine Clark of Massachusetts, Pete Aguilar of California. I think for the vast majority of Americans, they don't really care who the leadership is in the House. A lot of people probably don't even know who else is in leadership right now aside from Pelosi. And I don't really blame them. Although these are supposed to be powerful positions, I think most Americans just feel like no matter who's running the country, they're going to keep getting screwed. Their costs are going to keep going up, and their future is going to look more pessimistic. Changing parties or changing faces isn't really going to change a whole lot. And they'll try to make you think that it is, and in some instances it does matter, but I do think a lot of Americans feel like the corporate power has gotten out of control. The Democrats used to talk a big game about getting money out of politics. So whoever the next leader is for the Democrats, if it's Hakeem Jeffries, here's what his winning ticket would be. First off, he should say that he completely and wholeheartedly rejects identity politics. Doesn't matter what color anybody is, doesn't matter what their gender is. The only thing that does matter are their views. So no future legislation will be put forth that has any language regarding anyone's immutable characteristics. All legislation will be based on what's happening and not who it's happening to. Inclusivity will be defined based on circumstance and not on identity. The next thing he should do is say, we Democrats, we want to get money out of politics, and they're going to spend all of their effort trying to overturn Citizens United, and I think that's a winning issue. I think at least 60 or 70% of the population would support that. Now, talking a big game on that is one thing, and actually delivering is another. We all know politicians like to throw you a bone, give you a little bit of something, and then act like they're doing 90%, when in reality they're only doing 10%. Next thing he should do is talk about getting all Americans health care, strengthening Social Security, Medicare, closing any loopholes for corporations or for the wealthy Americans. Anybody making under $50,000 is not going to be paying much in taxes because they're already screwed as it is. And they're also going to adopt some America First policies, while they also stop enthusiastically sending billions to foreign countries for foreign wars. Now, if you start with those basic policies, I think the Democrats would win in perpetuity. But again, they would actually have to deliver on the goods. I know there's other issues out there. There's homelessness, there's crime, there's abortion, there's the environment. Democrats are really going to want to talk up those issues. I think a lot of that should be on the back burner. Maybe not the entire time, but most of the time. Stick to those popular issues that most people are going to get behind, and you've got a winning formula. At least that's how I see it. Deviating from that more than just a little bit, then you're starting to get back toward the status quo, and we're all tired of the status quo, and we don't care if it's a new face at the top of the leadership ladder. Now, for the Republicans, this says that there's 3 GOP members who are not going to support Kevin McCarthy as Speaker. I'm willing to guess that by the time the election rolls around, they'll fall in line because they're not going to want to divide their vote and let one of the Democrats win. Maybe McCarthy will give some concessions. Who knows? But either way, he's really going to be limping into this Speaker of the House position. Now, the Democratic leadership, it's really all from the coasts, and apparently it's not going to change with these new faces that come in. And Kevin McCarthy, he's from the coast as well. I think a lot of the leadership really loses touch with the middle of the country, so we'll see who else gets elevated for committees and chair positions. Now, when McCarthy assumes the role, now I don't necessarily personally agree with all of this or disagree with all of this, but here's how I think he would be most successful. And just like the Democrats, he should come out there and say that he's going to get all Americans health care, and he's going to strengthen Social Security and Medicare. All without raising taxes on anybody making 10 grand, 30 grand, 50 grand a year. In fact, those people should have their tax burden reduced. If you have to end up raising taxes on people making $500,000, $1 million, or maybe you just want to draw the line on the ultra-rich, the billionaires or corporate profits that are exceedingly high, whatever the appropriate dollar amount is to settle on, there's a lot less of those people than there are making under 75 grand. That would be a winning issue. Yeah, most of the donors wouldn't like that, but you know who would like that? The voters. I've said it before in my previous videos, but these economic issues, a lot of these, this is the Republicans' blind spot. If they lean into these issues just a little bit, that's going to go a long way, because I do think that is their glaring weakness. As for the identity politics stuff, that language should also be stripped from any future legislation. I think Republicans are much less likely to include that in any bills, but once in a while, some Republicans do get giddy over the identity politics stuff, and that would definitely be a problem. But most of that is associated with the Democrats. I think that burden falls on them to change the narrative on. Republicans, they have to change the economic narrative. Healthcare, it's a winning formula. Everybody needs it. It's extremely expensive. Yes, there's other tweaks you can do around it. You've also got to get the costs down. Other things you can do, don't completely shy away from some of these social safety nets, some of this populist economic messaging. If you have to support unions a little bit, go for it. If you have to support a little bit of paid family leave, go for it. And if you even have to support a federal minimum wage increase, I think you have enough evidence now to see state by state when this is put to the voters, they want it. So if they don't see you standing in the way of it, that's going to help. And Republicans can also freely talk up the America First platform. I think that's pretty much a winner. They should say we want to make and manufacture everything here in the U.S. They want energy independence. We don't want to be importing any oil. Let's be environmentally responsible, but let's not also be reliant on foreign countries for our energy supply. And similarly to the Democrats, they should say, we really don't want to be having foreign intervention. We don't want to just be a blank check to fight all these foreign wars and support and prop up other people in other countries when so many people in our own country have been forgotten about, fallen behind. That's a winning message. And the last thing Republicans should do with abortion, because that is one of their weaknesses, they're going to have to soften up on that just a little bit. They can't go around advocating for a ban or a ban after 6 weeks. That's not going to work outside of a few areas. They'd have to find some kind of a consensus position, maybe a ban after 15, maybe 20 weeks, with a couple of exceptions. That's going to be hard to go up against. But for the Republicans, showing some leniency on the abortion issue, that's going to be a winning ticket. And then, of course, Republicans do have all of their other issues that they're going to want to talk up. Guns and education, crime, that's all going to be there. But again, if they just mostly stick to what I laid out there, I think they would have a lot of success. The days of Republicans just being the low tax party, that's not going to work anymore if they want to actually have some working class appeal. I think they should say low taxes for people not making much. That makes sense. But if you're highly, highly successful, you're going to have to end up paying some more. And on the identity politics stuff, or all the woke issues, social justice, whatever you want to call it, I think the Republicans are already pretty much on the winning side on that issue. So hopefully things get better with divided government, but we all have very low confidence of that happening. But we'll see how it goes, and that is a little bit about what I think of the changes for the upcoming House leadership. Let me know down below in the comments, what do you think about the leadership changes? And if you enjoy this channel, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.